coming out in the press and saying their theory of the case is wrong, their fundamental premise has been rejected. I yield the gentleman from Ohio.
You got to yield back to.
Yield back to the gentleman from Pennsylvania.
Yes, I yield to my friend from Ohio.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Exactly. What changes? We got a brand new president who Zelensky ran on anti-corruption. Let's see if he's the real deal. And that's exactly what happened in the 55 days the aid was paused. We talked about 5 critical meetings that took place. 5 meetings. The last one I think is the most important because you had a Democrat senator and a Republican senator meet with President Zelensky in Kyiv. They knew the aid had been paused at that time. Ukrainians knew they'd learned a few days before that, and the issue never came up. But what did come up is both of these senators came back and said, this guy is the real deal, worth the risk, worth sending the hard-earned tax dollars of the American people to Ukraine. That is what happened, and the facts are very clear. You can make up all the stuff you want, but the facts are on the president's side. They've always been on the president's side. Democrats keep saying, to get the call, to get the meeting, to get the money, there had to be an announcement. It's December 12th. There is yet to be an announcement from Ukraine about any type of investigation into Burisma or the Bidens. Yet. Because it's not going to happen. Because it never needed to happen. That wasn't the point. But they got the call July 25th. They got the meeting September 25th. And they got the money September 11th. The other thing I want to point out. I don't know how many times I've heard this. The Democrats talk about this one sentence the president said in the now famous call transcript with President Zelensky. I would like you to do us a favor, though. The Democrats don't read the plain language. In fact, your star professor witness who was here last week, she talked about this being the royal we. She read the sentence the way you guys always try to portray the sentence. She said it was, I would like you to do me a favor, though. That's not what it says. It says, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because, and guess what the next 2 words are? Guess what the next 2 words are? Because our country, not because I. President doesn't say, I would like you to do me a favor, though, because I've been through a lot. He doesn't say that. Very clear. I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot. And that is the understatement of the year. Heck yeah, our country's been through a lot. This is the day after Bob Mueller sat in front of this committee, and we learned that there was nothing there. But 2 years he put our country through all kinds of turmoil because of you guys. That's what the president's pointing out, because in the end of this paragraph, he references Bob Mueller. That's what he's talking about. Heck yeah, our country had been through a lot, and the president was pretty ticked about it. He wanted to find out what was going on. That's very legitimate. That is working on behalf of the American people. But again, as I said last night, you guys don't respect the 63 million people who voted for this guy. That's why the Speaker of the House called the president an imposter. That's what's wrong. I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot. I yield back. And the guy they mentioned 611 times in their report, Mr. Sondland, the guy who presumed there was a quid pro quo, the guy who had to file an addendum to his deposition testimony. And in that addendum, again, he has this great sentence where he says, Ambassador Taylor recalls that Mr. Morrison told Ambassador Taylor that I told Mr. Morrison that I had conveyed this message to Mr. Yarmouk on September 1st, 2019, in connection with Vice President Pence's visit to Warsaw and a meeting with President Zelensky. 6 people, again, having 4 conversations in 1 sentence. Here's the interesting thing. Yarmouk talks with Sondland. Sondland talks with Morrison. Morrison talks with Taylor. And somehow through all that, we get the Democrats believing that there was this quid pro quo and that they need to impeach the president. But what they forget is what Mr. Gates brought up just a few minutes ago. Yarmouk talks with Sondland. Sondland talks with Morrison. Morrison talks with Taylor. And this is part of their scheme. Guess what? 2 days ago, the guy who started it, Yarmouk, said it didn't happen. But that's their guy, Mr. Sondland. Had to file the addendum to his testimony. Had to write this sentence to clarify. I think this is amazing. This is the clarification. Ambassador Taylor recalls that Mr. Morrison told Ambassador Taylor that I told Mr. Morrison that I conveyed this message to Mr. Yarmouk on September 1st, 2019 in connection with Vice President Pence's visit to Warsaw and a meeting with President Zelensky. Yarmouk's the key here, and it didn't happen. He just told us that. Time magazine just reported it the very same day as Mr. Gates pointed out that you all filed your articles of impeachment. Holy cow, this is what it comes down to. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back for what's
report. If you're going to build your case around the guy who presumed presumed there was a quid pro quo. The guy who had to file an addendum to his deposition, if you're going to do all that, you can't ignore the direct conversation he had with the President of the United States, where he asked him, Mr. President, what do you want from Ukraine? What did the President say? Interesting, Mr. Sondland left this out of his opening statement, his 20-some page opening statement. What do you want from Ukraine? What did the President say? I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. I want him to do what he said. I want him to do what he ran on. You can't ignore that. The one piece of direct evidence, you want all this presumption, you want all this addendum. If you're going to take some of Sondland, you got to take all of it. I yield back. I yield to Mr. Stupi.
I yield to Mr. Gates.
There's
I had 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I had 30 seconds left before they cut the clock.
The gentleman proceed.
I yield to Mr. Gates.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I just think the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen's debate on the last subject really shows what we're dealing with. This is not a rifle shot impeachment with facts and evidence. This is birdshot. I mean, he talked about everything from, you know, the campaign finance concerns to Trump University, concerns about charities. This is like pin the tail on your favorite impeachment theory because they don't have evidence for any one single thing to impeach the president for. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does Mr. McClintock seek recognition?
To strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the Constitution introduces the President with 15 words. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. It does not vest any authority in lieutenant colonels of the NSC, ambassadors, State Department officials, or cabinet secretaries. The only authority that these officials exercise is delegated to them by the President. So all of the criticisms and resentments and personal and political disagreements that we've heard from those officials are completely irrelevant. It is dangerous that so many officials in the executive branch believe that they have independent authority to override presidential policy, leak classified documents, and actively work to undermine the lawful discharge of the President's duties under Article 2. If their judgment can replace that of the President, it means that the people of the United States have simply been removed from the equation. Now, someone said during the discussion today that the President has actually committed real crimes. But the article does not charge such crimes. Why not? Because there's no evidence to support them. If there was evidence, you know that in a heartbeat they would have included these charges, so it's obvious they don't even believe their own rhetoric. One member said, we're not restricted as the Department of Justice is. Think about what that statement means. The Department of Justice is restricted by the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights sets forth basic principles